Hi, it's Therese. Welcome back. It's time for another Gimme 5 with Penny Black, and today I've got some busy backgrounds to share with you with some tips and tricks along the way. So before I get onto the backgrounds, I decided to share just a little bit of colouring with you. Now these are the images that I'm going to use on all of the cards. I am only going to show you the colouring of one of each. The girl, her name is Lolly, and the little bunny rabbit's from a little set called Flying By. Now I did have the coordinating die for the bunny, but the little girl, I had to fussy cut her a few times. It wasn't too hard, but I realised I don't fussy cut very often anymore. I think I'm out of practice. So when I was trying to decide what to do today, I had this vision in my head for a little while of black and white, like busy backgrounds and a coloured image on top, or vice versa, a really busy coloured background and a black and white image on top. I've seen some cards out there in Blogland recently that are similar to that style, and I just find them really appealing. And you can pretty much do this with so many of your different stamps. You can use normal images and repeat them. You can use sentiments and repeat them. You can use coloured cardstock. You can use black and white. You can use tone on tone. You can use colour on colour. Mix it up, whatever you want to do. The possibilities truly are endless. So I thought I would share a few different options today using some of those techniques, and at the same time have a bit of fun using my Penny Black products and sharing a Gimme 5 with you. Now I have a full list of the Copic colours that I've used today over at my blog, and you'll find the link in the description below. Otherwise you can have a look. I've kept most of the lids off to the side so you can see which colours I'm using as I'm colouring. Now today I was practicing dress folds. I haven't done a lot of colouring of folds, and I know people who can do this with incredible talent, and by the time I'd coloured this little girl 3 times, I was getting much better with the way that I was colouring. And that's one thing to be aware of. The more you colour a specific image or a particular image, the better you're going to get at colouring it, and the easier it is going to be to colour. And what I did on the second image, instead of colouring it exactly the same, I just changed up the colours. I still used the same colour theme throughout all 5 cards today. I find that's easier than rethinking the wheel every time, and it just means I'm not getting out thousands of different colours and making too many decisions. It gets all too hard in my brain if I've got to make too many decisions all at once. I don't know about you, but I've always had problems getting a nice pink colour in the Copic family. So recently I actually bought a new colour. I don't buy many new Copic colours. I tend just to get the refills for the ones I have and make do. But I bought the RV34, and I find that's a really pretty dark pink without being too fluorescent. I left my stamps in place in the Misty, and I often do this because I initially stamped them out with the Tuxedo Black, and then I can restamp over top with the black pigment ink just to make those lines crisp. And when I did this the second time, I actually moved my cardstock. I couldn't believe it. I could have cried. I then had to restamp and start again, and that's why I ended up colouring her 3 times, but you're only going to see 2 of them. Now onto my backgrounds, and I have the Unforgettable stamp. Now you might not look at this and think of a background stamp, but I actually use it on 2 cards today. Now it's a cling rubber stamp, and I want to cover a whole card front, so to make it easier for me to see where I'm going to stamp, I'm using my Stamp-A-Majig tool. I had to get the dust off this thing, I think. I haven't used it in an age, but for this technique it's perfect. I have a piece of cardstock that I've got taped down to my copy paper, and then I can just line up the stamp with my Stamp-A-Majig and then just come in and stamp the image, and then I know exactly where I'm going to stamp. I would have found it hard otherwise to see exactly where I was going to stamp. With the grey you can't see through, with the photopolymer stamp you can see through, but this is just really helpful. And it's not an expensive tool. You can actually make your own. I've seen versions where people have even made them with Lego blocks. But they do work well. I rarely get it out now, but it is, for this sort of scenario, it's invaluable. So basically I covered the whole front of this piece of cardstock with the unforgettable bouquet, and there was one spot I didn't stamp very well, so I just came in with my Copic multi-liner. The sentiments from a fun set called Birthday Humour, and I'm white heat embossing that on some pink cardstock. You might have noticed there's a pink and green theme happening today. And I do have, you can see the powder tool on there, but I just, once the embossing powder's cooled down, I can just wipe that away and you'll never see it. And I've added the panel to the front of a top fold card, and it's hard to believe I just stamped that image 3 times and I've covered the whole card front, and it just changes the whole look of this clean and simple design by having that little girl sitting on the line art. I've popped up both the sentiment and the girl with some foam squares, and I did decide to put them off to the side. I was going to do it in the centre, which would have looked good too, but for some reason I'm off to the side today. And how pretty is she on that line art background? So my second design today, I'm actually working on coloured cardstock for this background, and I'm doing a tone on tone, and I've got, this is like a floral sprig from the Exquisite envelope stamp set, and there's quite a few leaves and flowers in this set, and what I did was actually stamp an all over pattern on this piece of cardstock with the one image. You can change it up and use a few different images if you want, but I stuck to the one and just did that tone on tone. Now I've cut an envelope from the same Exquisite envelope set. I've stamped it and die cut it, and I'm adding a little heart with some pink ink, and I'm really glad I used my Misty here because I did need to stamp this twice because my ink pad's getting a little bit dry, so I was pretty happy that I did use the Misty because it's a very fine stamped, like dotted heart. The best thing about this envelope is it comes with the die cut that you can create a hole within that. You could do this with a blade as well, a craft blade, but it's just much easier to use the die. So I ran that through the die cutter machine. I'm adding a sentiment to the front of my card, and that's from the Million Thanks stamp set, and then popping one of my little rabbits that I've coloured within the die cut of the envelope, and then I've popped the whole envelope up on the front of the card. Still very clean and simple, but I think by adding that tone on tone stamped background, it just takes it to the next level. It's really pretty and nice and bright, makes me happy. Now this is a fun one. A repeated sentiment, and I don't know why I chose this one. There's a lot of stamping. I eyeballed it. The other way I like to stamp out a repeated straight image is with my stamp press. I find that really easy to do because I can use the lines, the grid lines on the stamp press to make sure it's straight. But today I thought that was going to take me too long for some reason, so I just eyeballed it. So you get lots of head cutting out shots here because I had to lean directly over the stamp to make sure that I stamped it straight. And this is also a thank you from the Million Thanks stamp set. It's a really good set. That one has some big sentiments and lots of sub-sentiments. I've attached that to the front of a top fold card, and here's my second girl, and she's in a pretty green dress this time with a pink flower in her hair. Isn't she a cutie? So now it's back to our bunny from the Flying By stamp set, and I thought it'd be really fun to stamp this all over the front of a card, Where I'm stamping now, this is going to be my main image, so I actually thought about where I wanted it to be and stamped that one first. I've kept my block straight so that each time when I stamp the image it's going to be facing the same angle. So each time I'm looking at the edges of my block and making sure that they are aligning with the edges of my piece of cardstock. And I basically covered the whole of this piece of cardstock and made sure I stamped the image off the edges of the card as well. I've added the thanks again and this sub-sentiment from the Million Thanks stamp set. I don't know, I think it's going to take over the snippets if I'm not careful. And then I just popped up my die cut bunny, and I only used the 1mm foam here. I didn't want it to sit too high, and added the sub-sentiment just below the word thanks as well. I thought I'd do something different for my last card. I've stamped the unforgettable, this time on some pink cardstock, and rather than colour the whole image in, I'm using a Prismacolor pencil to colour some highlights on the flower. And you could use a white pencil, that would have looked really pretty as well. Or if you're really enthusiastic, you could use a dark pencil and actually colour more. So you could add some darkness, say to the, like in the base of the leaves, petals, and then come out with a lighter colour and then leave the paper colour as well. So you've got kind of that mix of the three. And then I decided to make a background panel this time, and I've die cut it out with the simple stackers, and this is a really cool nesting set of dies. I've added a sentiment from the snippets set. This was one that I already had made, so I thought I might as well use it up, and I'm attaching that directly to the panel, and then I have popped up my little girl. This time I've kept the image as line art. So thanks for watching, and remember there are lots of ways you can connect with Penny Black. Don't forget to like today's video and subscribe to the channel. Visit Penny Black on Facebook and Instagram and check out their blog and website. Now they're all going to be linked in the YouTube description below, and I'll also link my blog there. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of Gimme 5 Same But Different Cards with Penny Black, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Bye!